The global functional beverage market is currently valued at over $140 billion, fueled by a generation desperate to fix their gut health. You've seen them everywhere. Brightly colored cans of prebiotic soda promising the benefits of apple cider vinegar and plant fibers for $5 a pop. In fact, one major gut-healthy soda brand was recently valued at a staggering $1.9 billion. But here is the injustice. While you pay a premium for live cultures, most of these industrial cans undergo high-heat pasteurization to ensure a 2-year shelf life. Scientifically speaking, heat kills. You aren't buying a thriving ecosystem. You're often buying expensive, flavored sugar water with ghost microbes that can't do much for your microbiome. Compare that to a 50-cent glass of traditional beet Kvass or pineapple Tepache, where trillions of living, breathing bacteria are created through 7 days of silent, kitchen alchemy. Why does the industry want you to believe that gut health must come from a factory-sealed aluminum can? By the end of this video, you will discover the $2 billion marketing lie, the science of why most prebiotic drinks are biologically dead, and the ancient 3-ingredient secret that unlocks more digestive power than any $60 supplement subscription. The modern beverage aisle has undergone a radical transformation. Where sugary sodas once reigned supreme, a new titan has emerged, the functional, sparkling drink. Walk into any high-end grocer in New York, London, or Berlin, and you are met with a wall of pastel-colored cans adorned with words like prebiotic, gut-friendly, and botanical infusions. This isn't just a trend, it is a gold rush. The global functional beverage market is ballooning toward $200 billion, driven by a consumer base that is increasingly terrified of their own digestive systems. We have been sold a compelling narrative that the path to a resilient microbiome lies in a $5 can of fizz. Major venture capital firms are pouring hundreds of millions into brands like Olipop and Poppi, betting on the idea that people will pay a 400% premium over traditional soda if it promises to fix their bloating. In February 2024, the buzz reached a fever pitch when rumors of billion-dollar acquisitions started swirling around the industry's leaders. The market belief is simple. These drinks are the convenient, clean evolution of health. They use chicory root fiber, apple cider vinegar, and stevia to mimic the experience of a classic cola without the guilt. We are told that by simply cracking open a tab, we are feeding our internal garden. But as the valuation of these companies climbs higher than the actual nutrient density of their products, a staggering contradiction begins to surface. If these drinks are truly the future of health, why does the science of microbiology tell a much darker story about what happens inside those pressurized aluminum walls? Are we paying for a biological miracle, or are we simply funding the most sophisticated marketing illusion of the 21st century? To understand the fundamental flaw of industrial, gut-healthy sodas, we must look at the one thing the marketing department never shows you, the assembly line. There is a structural conflict between the biology of a living microbe and the economics of a global supply chain. A true probiotic drink is a volatile, breathing ecosystem. It bubbles, it changes flavor, and most importantly, it requires refrigeration to stay stable. But for a billion-dollar brand to sit on the warm shelves of a supermarket for 18 months, it must be stable. In the world of industrial food science, stability is achieved through one primary method: sterilization. Most commercial prebiotic sodas undergo flash pasteurization, a process of heating the liquid to extreme temperatures to kill off potential pathogens. The tragedy is that heat does not discriminate. While it clears the path for a long shelf life, it simultaneously massacres the very delicate microorganisms that the consumer is paying for. This creates a ghost microbe effect. You are consuming the cellular remains of bacteria that were once beneficial, but are now biologically inert. Research in the journal Nutrients has shown that while dead bacteria, postbiotics, may have some minor immune signaling effects, they lack the colonizing power and active enzyme production of the live ferments found in traditional preparations. Furthermore, these cans are pressurized and sealed. A living ferment produces gas. If these sodas were truly alive and unpasteurized, the cans would bulge and eventually explode on the shelf. The very fact that your probiotic soda is perfectly still and shelf-stable is the loudest evidence that the life within it has been silenced. We are paying for the idea of a microbe, while the reality is a sterilized liquid designed for profit margins, not for the complex living terrain of the human gut. Is the convenience of a dead soda worth the loss of a living medicine? The industry's defense often rests on a single word: fiber. If you look at the back of a leading prebiotic soda can, you will likely see 9 grams of fiber, primarily sourced from agave inulin or chicory root. On paper, this looks like a nutritional victory. Inulin is a validated prebiotic that feeds beneficial bacteria. However, this is where the reductionist trap of modern wellness reveals itself. The supplement industry loves to isolate single compounds, strip them of their natural context, and sell them back to us as a silver bullet. This is the artificial approach: high dose, isolated, and often jarring to the human digestive system. For many, consuming 9 grams of isolated inulin in a 5-minute sitting doesn't lead to gut harmony. It leads to inulin intolerance, severe bloating, cramping, and gas. This happens because your microbiome isn't a machine that accepts fuel in isolation. It is a complex social network of microbes that evolved to process fibers in their whole ancestral form. Now consider the ancestral alternative: a traditional ferment like a fruit-based ginger bug or a botanical oxymel. These are not built around a single isolated fiber. Instead, the fermentation process creates a symbiotic web. When you ferment a whole herb or fruit, the wild yeast and bacteria break down the plant's complex sugars and cell walls, creating a spectrum of bioavailable polyphenols, organic acids, and enzymes. You aren't just getting a dose of fiber, you are getting a pre-digested cocktail of nutrients that are ready for immediate absorption. While a lab-made soda uses stevia or monk fruit to hide the metallic tang of its additives, a traditional ferment develops its own sophisticated flavor profile through the production of acetic and lactic acids. We have been conditioned to prefer the standardized, static taste of the factory over the seasonal, living funk of the crock. But in choosing the artificial over the ancestral, are we sacrificing the very intelligence of our food for the sake of a consistent flavor? The irony of the $2 billion prebiotic soda industry is that it is trying to sell us a diluted, sterilized version of something our ancestors mastered for free. Long before the invention of the aluminum can or the isolation of chicory root fiber, humanity lived in a profound partnership with the microbial world. This was not a matter of wellness trends, it was a matter of survival and culinary wisdom. From the rolling steppes of Eastern Europe to the vibrant markets of Mexico and the quiet monasteries of East Asia, every culture had its own version of a functional beverage. Consider Kvass, the ancient Slavic elixir. For over 1,000 years, it was crafted using nothing more than leftover rye bread, water, and wild yeast. It wasn't just a drink, it was a living shield. Field workers drank it to maintain stamina and prevent dysentery, benefiting from the lactic acid and B vitamins produced during its short, natural fermentation. Then there is Tepache, the pride of Mexican street culture, made from the rinds of pineapples, cinnamon, and piloncillo. These drinks were never meant to be shelf-stable for years. They were seasonal, effervescent, and teeming with a diverse array of local bacteria that evolved alongside the people who drank them. In East Asia, the tradition of koso, an enzyme-rich liquid made by fermenting dozens of seasonal fruits and vegetables with sugar, served as a concentrated source of digestive intelligence. These methods didn't require a laboratory or a venture capital infusion. They required a ceramic crock and a fundamental respect for time. So why did this knowledge disappear? The answer lies in the 20th century obsession with the great standard. Industrialization demanded products that looked, tasted, and behaved exactly the same in London as they did in Tokyo. The living funk of traditional ferments, their tendency to continue carbonating or changing flavor, was seen as a defect by corporate distributors. To achieve global scale, the industry had to kill the microbes, pasteurize the history, and replace the complex soul of these drinks with standardized, isolated fibers. We traded the diverse living library of our ancestors for a monochromatic dead book. But as we face a global gut health crisis, is it time to reopen the jars our grandparents left behind? Reclaiming your gut health from the $2 billion soda trap does not require a laboratory. It requires a return to the kitchen alchemy that sustained our ancestors. To create a true probiotic beverage, we must move away from isolated fibers and instead embrace the wild ferment. The most accessible entry point is the ginger bug, a self-perpetuating culture of wild yeast and beneficial bacteria that serves as the living base for any soda you desire. The process is deceptively simple. 3 ingredients: fresh ginger, filtered water, and organic cane sugar. In a glass jar, combine 2 tablespoons of minced ginger with 2 tablespoons of sugar and 2 cups of water. Every 24 hours for the next 5 to 7 days, you must feed the bug with 1 tablespoon of ginger and 1 of sugar. You are not just mixing ingredients, you are cultivating a colony. By day 5, the liquid will become effervescent, smelling faintly of yeast and spice. This is the sound of biological life. Unlike the dead pasteurized cans in the supermarket, this bug is teeming with active enzymes and lactic acid bacteria that are ready to colonize your microbiome. Once your starter is active, the possibilities are endless. You can transform any herbal tea or fruit infusion into a sparkling, gut-healing elixir. Simply mix your active ginger bug liquid with a base, perhaps a concentrated hibiscus tea or a blend of fresh pineapple juice, and bottle it in flip-top glass containers. This is where the second fermentation occurs. Left at room temperature for another 48 hours, the wild microbes consume the remaining sugars, naturally carbonating the drink from within. There is no need for synthetic inulin or artificial sweeteners here. The carbonation is a byproduct of life, not a forced injection of CO2. When you finally pop the seal, the hiss you hear is a testament to a living medicine. You have created a beverage with a higher microbial diversity than any commercial prebiotic soda for a total cost of less than 50 cents. But as we step back into this ancient practice, we must also respect the potency of what we have created. Working with live cultures is a responsibility, a dialogue between the brewer and the microscopic world that requires both caution and intuition. Chao ban doi la suk kui quen long. Shung ta se huan tien lop la shenkin tuk ne bankach, nin han hungioi havatrash nhiem kitiap suk wakash tug the song trong nhabep. Dui jai la noi dong chitiacho fankan bao valuyantuan. Section 6, the fine print, caution and limitations. While the journey of home fermentation offers a powerful alternative to the sterilized world of industrial sodas, it is not a path without rules. We are dealing with biological life, and life requires specific conditions to remain beneficial rather than harmful. The first and most critical rule of kitchen alchemy is the management of the environment. Unlike a factory that uses chemical preservatives, we rely on acidity and salt to suppress pathogenic bacteria. If you are fermenting at home, you must ensure your equipment is meticulously clean, not necessarily sterile, but free of soap residue and old food particles that could invite mold or harmful strains like E. coli. Furthermore, we must address the bioavailability paradox. Just because a drink is rich in live cultures does not mean it is a universal cure. For individuals with compromised immune systems or specific gut conditions like SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, the sudden introduction of high-potency wild ferments can lead to severe discomfort or immune reactions. It is a potent medicine, and like any medicine, it should be approached with respect and, if necessary, professional medical advice. There is also the matter of ingredients. If you are using tap water, the chlorine designed to kill bacteria in the pipes will also kill the bug you are trying to grow. You must use filtered or spring water. If you are using iodized salt, the iodine can inhibit the fermentation process. These small details are the difference between a thriving ecosystem and a jar of rotting sugar water. Finally, remember that home-fermented sodas still contain sugar. While the bacteria consume much of it to produce carbonation and organic acids, those monitoring their glucose levels must remain vigilant. We are not replacing one addiction with another. We are learning to use sugar as a fuel for microbes, not just a treat for our tongues. Are you prepared to listen to the subtle signals of your ferment? Or will you let the convenience of a dead soda override the intuition of your own senses? Chao ban, Toi la suk koi quen lung. Chung ta jang tien jen hong buak kwai kung je huan tien mo tai liu fan tik sak ben. Giup khan gen hin tau lop swang mo kwa marketing baham tai bao sutat sin hok. Doi jai la fan kit loan va thong jiep koi kung sho. Kich ban kwa ban. Block 5, Viet ending English version. The rise of the $1.9 billion prebiotic soda industry is a masterclass in modern alchemy. Not the kind that turns lead into gold, but the kind that turns a human need for connection with nature into a convenient, sterilized commodity. We have explored the structural paradox of the industrial assembly line, where the heat required for a global shelf life is the very thing that silences the microbial life we desperately seek. We have seen how isolated fibers, stripped of their ancestral context, can often lead to more digestive discord than harmony. But more importantly, we have rediscovered that the most potent, functional beverage in the world doesn't come from a venture-backed laboratory. It comes from a glass jar, a piece of ginger, and the invisible labor of wild microbes that have been our partners for millennia. True gut health is not a transaction you complete at a checkout counter. It is a relationship you cultivate in your own kitchen. It requires us to trade the illusion of convenience for the reality of biological time. As you watch the bubbles rise in your own homemade ferment, remember that you are participating in a lineage of wisdom that predates every marketing firm on earth. Will you continue to fund the sterilized silence of the industry? Or will you embrace the living, breathing funk of the ancestral path? The choice, quite literally, is in your gut. If this investigation challenged your perspective, subscribe to join our journey into the forgotten truths of human health. Share your fermentation stories in the comments below. Let's rebuild the microbial bridge together.